Go through verses 1 through 18. So I'm going to have you guys turn to that, and then we're going to do the prayer of presence, do a prayer, and then jump into it. Let me know when you guys find Ecclesiastes chapter 7. Good? Good? All right, good. Awesome. Alrighty then, so we're going to do the prayer of presence, and we're just going to have you close your eyes. I'm going to put in a minute right here, and then we're all just going to take this deep breath. We're going to focus on God. We're going to really allow God's presence to just be with us right now, be aware of Him, so that we can focus and really just align our minds and our thoughts to Him. Okay, 1 minute starting now. Dear Lord Jesus, we want to thank you so much that you're here before us. We want to thank you so much that we have now put our thoughts on you. I ask, my Lord, dear Jesus, that you help us grow closer to you, that you fill us with your Holy Spirit, that we may have understanding, that it may minister to us, and that we would be able to take any of the lessons that we have today onward, to bless other people so that it may be a blessing to us. And we're just so grateful, my Lord, because you have given us these words. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name, we all pray and thank. Amen. All right, so right now we have Ecclesiastes chapter 7. And the first question that Milosh has for us is, think of a deceased person that left a really profound imprint on your soul. So, you got one person? You got one person?
Yeah.
You got a person?
You said diseased?
Yeah, that left a really, a good imprint
Deceased.
on your...
Oh, deceased.
Oh.
Okay.
Deceased. I did hear.
I thought like a sick. Okay.
Yeah, I have okay. So, someone who really made a difference in your life. It doesn't have to be someone you knew personally, but just someone who affected your being, and they're gone. So we have that one person. Now imagine you're at their funeral and you're about to share a few words about them. What would you say? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Mine would probably be our grandpa on dad's side. Only because I would have wanted to meet him and to hear from him, because I know he was such a very religious man. And I would have loved to see, I would have loved to ask him a bunch of questions. How did you do this? How did what did you do in your spiritual walk?
Yeah.
Mine's my cousin. I did go to his funeral, but he was always just loving and kind, always looked out for other people, and it's like a character I want not necessarily always following, but he would always just randomly check up on his family and his friends just to see how everyone's doing, even though him himself was going through some trials and tribulations.
Yeah. If you don't want to share, that's 100% fine. Okay. Now imagine you go way back and you're at their celebration of their birth. Just go with it. you look at that baby and see again, you're about to say a few words about them, what would you say? Like imagine you're at your grandpa's birth. Like what would you say about them?
To be honest, I probably wouldn't really say anything like super like extravagant. I'd probably just say a blessing. Like I pray that like you live such a healthy long life. Like I pray that like, your mistakes like make you a better person.
Yeah. Does anyone want to say something else?
I was at my cousin's birth.
Were you?
I believe so. I was like 2 years old.
What would you
I was 2
say?
years old.
What would I say about them or to them?
Yeah, it says right here. Okay, you look at the baby, and again, you're about to say a few words about them. What would you say?
Make good life choices. Love as hard as you can. Be there for those in need.
Okay. What makes a difference between these 2 days?
What was everybody sharing the first part of it?
It's at their funeral.
Like, what would you say at their funeral?
Oh,
The
okay,
person
and
that
then
really make the most impact.
So that was like
in
the
your life.
first day. And
Yes.
then the second one, what would I say, like at their birth?
Mhm.
Okay, and what would be the difference?
Yep.
So there was one, my mom had this, it was like her cousin's son, who like, I think his death impacted me, even though I didn't personally know him, but I knew a lot of him. Like he was this young man who was going to medical school, and he was literally like about to finish, become a doctor, and he was like very well known within like the community of Denver, because like he was at the Anschutz campus. He was studying there, and he was like, apparently he was like top of his class. He was just doing a lot of really great things, and he had such a huge passion for what he did, and he tragically passed away on a motorcycle accident. And I think for me, like the reason that impacted me was because I really got to thinking like, wow, like this dude died young, but he died doing what he loved. Like he was so passionate about what he was doing, and it's so sad that like his life tragically ended very quickly before he even got to, you know, begin this career that he loved, but he was still in it, you know, he was almost finishing. And it just got me really thinking, like, what if I died like that from an accident, but I wasn't doing what I loved, because he was living a life he loved. So I think that really like stuck with me. And so like at his death, like if I were to say something, I would say like, you know, I feel that even though it is really sad, like I felt so proud of him for living a life that he wanted to live, and he was happy and passionate about, even if it was shortcut, because there's a lot of us that we go through life and we don't live a life that we're passionate about. So I would say that at his funeral, and at his birth, I guess would have been something like, man, you have no idea. Well, I guess assuming that I don't know what's gonna happen in his life, I guess I would say something along the lines of, I hope you do live a life that you're very passionate about and happy to live every day.
What would you? Yeah, exactly. I think that's beautiful.
What the difference would be though between like the death and the birth. I guess one is like the hope, and the other one is the
fact that he's already lived,
that he did live that way.
and that's actually right. The life in between. That's what he said. That's the right answer. It's like when you're born, you have so much expectations. You have so much to still live for, but you don't have no idea what's going to happen. Yeah. And then when we're on our deathbed or when we pass away, we've had all these amazing experiences. We've lived life. Yeah. That person, not your cousin, your mom's cousin, really lived life. Yeah. It was beautiful. And that's, I think, that what we all will hope to do in the future. Okay. Even though seemingly a funeral is a sad time and a birth a joyous one, that is a superficial view. Beauty is in profoundness of life, not its bare presence. And often profoundness of life is seen best when it ends. Which is, yeah, for all of us, like our grandpa who actually he would go to the square and he would preach to people, and anyone who needed help, he'd open their door for them. And for Skylar, he was amazing. He was always taking care of his family, always checking in on people, even though he himself was having a hard time living that life. And our cousin being able to live fully, going and doing what he wanted to do and just being happy and fulfilled. It's not morbid, it's the way things are. You learn more, you are moved more, you grow more at the end, don't you? So, part 1, he calls it the School of Death Rock. I don't get that. But we're going to read Ecclesiastes chapter 7, 1 through 6. Whoever wants to read that.
I'll read 1 through 6.
Okay.
A good name is better than fine perfume, and the day of death better than the day of birth.
Okay, right there. I'm going to stop you right there. So, verse 1. This is an introduction, and it makes 2 seemingly disconnected statements. And find a connection. Where do you see it? In verse 1.
Wait, it says that it makes 2 what?
It makes 2 different, it's kind of disconnected, but find the connection.
Between verse 1 and 2?
With verse 1.
Oh, okay.
So this is an introduction, and it makes 2 seemingly disconnected statements.
Oh, okay.
Find a connection. A good name is better than a precious ointment on the day of death than the day of birth. What do you guys think? A good name is better than a precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of birth.
I mean, I don't necessarily know it's disconnected, but I could see a good name being better than ointment and the day of death better than birth, because at birth, your name has no meat, like necessarily any foundation. With death, you leave that legacy, you left behind what you accomplished in life. So then you made a name for yourself for your name.
So good character. Good character versus the beginning of something and items that we consider precious in our lives. What is easier to bear? Actually, let's finish. No, yeah, because it kind of separates right here. Okay. What is easier to bear? The stench of someone's sweat or the stench of someone's character?
Where are you reading from?
Oh, this is, so we already finished the connection. Sean, I feel like got it.
Wait, what was the connection? I couldn't hear.
So the character, basically. It's like leaving a legacy. So,
As I said, like,
When you're
a
born.
name is better than, a good name is better than precious ointment, so, and the day of death is better than birth, because at birth, you just have your name, but you have nothing, a foundation on it. But with death, you left behind a legacy.
Oh, okay.
So for your name, like whatever you've done in life, that
Yeah.
is your, I guess, character.
Right.
is
For your
left behind
legacy.
Through that name.
okie dokie. So it's like, what is easier to bear? The stench of someone's sweat is what he's writing right here, or the stench of someone's character. I unfortunately cannot say this because I can't handle like the scent of some people. And I would rather deal with their terrible character than the smell. And then like that would be for me personally. Like I would hate for someone to think that I smell bad over my character. I'm like, I don't care what you think about me, but God forbid you think that I smell bad. So that's just me personally. So it's not a good way to say it, but it's like right here it says, what lasts longer? What would you rather choose for a week? People talking about your bad breath, or for a week, people talking about all the reasons you have a bad reputation? Personally, for me, the smell, but he's kind of trying to gun for like the reputation.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. The reason I was gonna say that I'd rather them like talk about the scent than the character is because like, have you ever gone to a place that smells nasty, but you kind of have to be there? Maybe it's like the rancho, you're next to cows, and you get used to it.
Yeah.
So then it's like you're kind of like, meh, whatever, I got used to it. But a character, like you do not get used to someone's nasty, rude character. That's just like,
You can't.
shut up. Yeah, you can't,
I'm
because it just,
grateful that you put it that way because that really helps me understand the
Reputation. It's very true. I can't.
But I'm like, you could get used to someone's
I mean,
character
you
because
do,
you can
but
transform
but
yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, yeah, maybe you get used to it, but it rubs off on you. So then you
And
no
then you end
no
up-
longer
yeah.
notice their bad character because now you're in on that bad character.
Dang. Oh, I like this. I like that very much. I am grateful for that, honestly, because I was with Victor over here. Like, I would rather.
Like that's not.
I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want anyone to think that I smell bad.
No, I meant like I'd rather have someone smell their character smell than deal with your character.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I heard the
'Cause
opposite.
the character that sticks around for a lot longer than a smell.
Yeah.
Plus, that's fixable too. Like someone can just
Right.
shower, or like you can
Said you can get used to it.
Or they shower, things change.
Yeah.
At the end of the week, you start liking it.
like,
Oh
It becomes
no.
comforting.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna say it could become comforting after a while. You're like, man, I miss that smell. Or you smell it, and you're like, oh,
Well, like,
reminds
that's-
me of this person.
Like those weird candles, like, so my grandmother, she used to have these really, like, not great smelling candles. And I remember thinking, like, when I was younger, I can't stand the smell of these candles. And now, if I ever come across these scents, I'm like,
Their lotion.
oh, I miss that scent.
I miss their lotion.
Yeah. Okay, so the answer here. Bad odor is superficial and essentially insignificant, but bad reputation, that one tends to last. In the same way, the day of your birth is a joyous, but that's all that it is, especially for you. But day of your death, even if it's decades ahead, can have a profound impact on you and everyone around you.
Yeah, that's
All right, let's read verses 2 to 6. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 2 to 6.
I'll read it.
Okay.
It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for this is the end of all mankind, and the living will lay it to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by sadness of face the heart is made glad. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. It is better for a man to hear the rebuke of the wise than to hear the song of fools. For as a crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fools. This is also vanity.
Okay. But all these verses have one common denominator that explains their meaning and turns them very much into positive messages. Instead of depressing nags as they superficially may sound at first, what is the one reason that will make this transformation?
Can you rephrase that?
So, like, what would change from like a nagging, depressing verses that we just read to a very positive one?
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. From 2 to 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I see it as, yeah,
Turn this way, so I can hear you.
because I'm looking at like the heart of the, it is better for a man to hear rebuke of the wise rather than songs of the fool. So it's like someone profound that you maybe have respect for, they rebuke something you've done,
Mm-hmm.
versus being congratulated and in the company of those that are sinful or may cause destruction in your life.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, for me, I think it is better to go to a house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting. For death is the destiny for everyone. The living should take this to heart. Because if you go to, like, for the house of feasting, I feel like it's just like happiness all the time, like partying all the time. Like they're not aware of like the things that like are truly painful. Like they're not aware of like they could care less, I guess you could
There's
call
no
it.
depth.
There's no depth. Yeah, there's no depth. There's no real like life in there. Like it's just like that superficial, like, oh, we're gonna be partying all the time. We're gonna have like drinks and people, and it's like, but they could care less. Like if something happens to that person, they could care less. Let's continue feasting.
Yeah.
But in a house of mourning, it's like, oh, do you remember this person? Oh, do you remember like what they left behind, like the lessons that they left for us. It's kind of like that.
So Sean used to work at this one place, Innovage. He's still working there now, but years ago, when he was a rehab over there, everyone would get together. All his coworkers would get together for birthday parties, for someone being born, for weddings, and I thought that was, wow, this is really special. But I didn't see how special it was until we all went to a funeral together. And that's when I started seeing, like, these people have heart, that they're not just here for the good times, they're here even for the bad times. What Milos put as that kind of like everything makes sense, and from like this like nagging depressive, like where's the positivity? The answer is learning experience. That's what all these situations make sense.
I'm
so sorry.
To it too. I was like,
No, go ahead. Go tell me.
I was gonna say that they all kind of connect in that, like, so going off of what Bati said and also what Sean was saying, like she was talking about when you're at parties, it's true. Like all you're thinking about is a good time, right? It's not really forcing you to think about your life. And right here, like that verse 3 says, for sadness has a refining influence on us because it causes us to reflect, right? Like, what do I need to do better in life? Oh, should I be spending more time with my family? Or do I need to put more effort here? Because when you go to a funeral, you're kind of like, makes you think about your own life.
Yeah.
So I think that was good. And then literally right after that says, a wise person thinks a lot about death, while a fool only thinks about having a good time. Like what Pati was saying, at a party, you're just thinking about a good time. And that's good. Like we need that in our lives, right? But then on the opposite side, we do need to think a lot about death, because then it's like, okay, well, when I die, what am I leaving behind? Did I leave a good legacy? Is my child going to be okay and set? Am I good to my friends? Are they going to have a good images of me? So it does force you to kind of think like, what areas of my life do I gotta work on?
I agree completely. And that's definitely like something that I personally had to reflect on with the things that I'm doing in my own personal life. Thank you. Okay, so verse 2, where are you going to collect more life lessons? By hospital beds or by frat parties? And we kind of already answered this.
Yeah.
Verse 3.
All things are still in college.
I'm kind of looking around, I'm like, we're kind of past that.
A little way past that.
Verse 3, what do you prefer? To cry out your anger and frustration and in relief laugh about it? Or to try and laugh about your anger and frustration in attempts to suppress them and then break down crying? Honestly, I would rather, I guess, like, experiencing the feeling and not just like pushing it down. I think that's how I'm like interpreting this.
Yeah.
Like, is it better to just laugh about like the pain and then cry and break down later? Or is it better to like really cry about this now and really have this feeling and then later on laugh about it?
Right, because you kind of went through it and like experienced it already.
We're gonna
I was just thinking about it, because like even like when we like now that like I'm almost 30, I'm like always thinking about like when our parents used to like nos regañaban, and I would always now I just laugh about it. Like I don't think about it anymore. I'm just like, oh yeah, do you remember when Dad used to do this, or do you remember when Mom used to do that? I would just start cracking up. I was like, oh, the time.
That happened. So like a while ago, we were all laughing about like our traumatic experiences with our parents.
Just like, oh.
And I find it funny, like I'm grateful that now we can laugh about it and that we could just like, shrug it off. I'm not sure if that's like a trauma indication. But at the same time, like I'm happy that we can definitely do that instead of just like completely breaking down. And like I'm sure for some of us have already taken some counseling for that madness. So, verses 4 to 6. Reiterate these ideas. What do you get from them? So let's see. He said, reiterate verses 4 to 6. I'll read it. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of myrrh. It is better for a man to hear the rebuke of the wise than to hear the songs of fools. For the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fools, and this is also vanity. How do we reiterate these ideas?
Well, like the better to be criticized by a wise person than to be praised by a fool. That one's like easy because it's true. It's like it would be a benefit to your life to be criticized by someone who does know what the heck they're talking about, and like kind of make you question, like, oh, okay, I never thought about it that way. I guess you're right. Maybe I am doing wrong here, and I gotta work on it. Versus like another person who's very foolish in their life tell you, oh no, dude, you're good. Don't worry about it. Like you're just gonna go down that same path with them.
Yeah. No,
So I'm
exactly.
like, that's a good one. But isn't it like so freaking hard to have that? Like when someone that criticizes you and you know they're right, but like it still stings and you're like, man, they don't know what they're talking about. So later you're like, they did know what they were talking about.
It's hard. And I think the way that I kind of gone around that is I just tell literally every human being, like, it's okay. I tell literally every human being, just let me know where I'm going wrong, because I don't see my own mistakes.
Right.
I'm
like,
blind to my own stench, I would say. It's like, please let me know like where I need to work on, because again, I don't know.
My mom always, like, I still go through to my mom for counsel. But over the years, you didn't want to hear it.
Right.
And then she's like, wasn't I right though? And I was like,
you were.
She's like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm like,
Or like the one that says a fool's laughter is quickly gone. It kind of makes me think of like high school and like all those like. Sometimes, you know, like the group of kids, I mean, we were all kind of young back then, right? But sometimes you're laughing about stupid stuff, and then you get older and you're just kind of, because, you know, when you're younger, you make fun of other people, or it's like, oh my gosh, she got pregnant at 16, like whatever, like all these stupid things, right? And then you get older and you're like, dang, shut up, because life hits you hard too. Like, don't be laughing at other people.
Absolutely. The amount of cringe that I have about my past.
Dude, same. You're just kind of real, or like sometimes you would laugh at like your parents for maybe some rule that they did, and you're like, they don't know what they're talking about, they're crazy, and then you get older and you're like, oh, no, they were right. Now I understand why they said what they were
kind
saying.
of loose on that rule.
Yeah. It's like maybe I should have not made fun of like all these rules that they had, because in the end they did protect me. They kept me safe.
It makes sense now.
Yeah.
Like now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I wish there's this one guy, I was massaging this one client, and he told me, he's like, you need to start investing right now, you need to start saving your money right now, the sooner you do it, just the better. Right now you're really young, you can do this. And I just didn't understand the steps for needing to do the things that I did, and so I found it daunting, and I never did. And now years later, I know, I'm like, oh, I was a fool.
Could have had like 10 years on that investment.
I know. Oh man. Okay, so I'm going to read the conclusion here. The wisdom evades us not because we don't have an opportunity to attain it, but because the society taught us a completely wrong way how to attain it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like now as kids, like they don't, when we were younger at least, I feel like they didn't help us understand like certain things, like, cause like they just tell you like, oh, just don't do that, and you're like, but why? And you're like, oh, it sounds like a really dumb reason, but they don't explain it to you like, hey, don't do this because this is gonna happen, and like they like giving you like warnings, like, hey, you're gonna get hurt, this is gonna like feel terrible later, and you're like, whatever. But like now we found out it's like it was terrible, it was a terrible feeling, like should have done this, should have done that. So it's just
I have a bunch of topes.
yeah.
I also feel like maybe like as our culture, like especially like sometimes I'll watch Rafael's cartoons with him, and I think a lot about the cartoons that I grew up watching, and a lot of them always had like a message or like a lesson, like some wisdom to impart. Versus like now some of the cartoons that I see with him, some of them do that they still have some good ones out there, but then there's a lot that I'm like, this is just entertainment, like pure entertainment. There's no lesson, there's no wisdom, there's nothing that's like leaving him with anything. Or maybe sometimes it's the same theme. It's like friendship. Okay, that's good. That's a good thing to learn, but that's not all. There's so many other things. So then it's kind of like maybe as a culture, maybe we just we're not appreciating like wisdom culture as much. Like I feel like maybe in other countries, like you see a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, because they hang around more of their grandparents and their great grandparents even.
It's
and
all
they
like
will
family.
get it's a whole family unit, whereas here in the States, like we're completely separated.
Yeah, more individualistic.
Or like we teach, or like we were taught as like teenagers, like you just find out. Like,
yeah, you'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. I was also rolling off the entertainment thing. I'm kind of thinking about like how we have this whole internet situation where we have wisdom at the touch of our fingers.
Right.
At a moment's notice, we can get it. But even though we do, we spend hours wasting it on doom scrolling.
Yeah.
And then hours pass by, at least that's what I'm going through right now. Hours pass by and I'm just kind of like,
What the heck? Yeah.
well, how did this add to my life? It didn't.
Yeah.
And so it's something that to work on and something to become more aware of so we can actually start living life a little bit more fully. Okay, so right here, the key to living a full life is in the awareness that every meal could be our last, and that every hug or kiss could be our last, that every harsh word we utter could be left stuck in our loved ones' minds as our last. And that, honestly, that gets to me all the time. So I had someone who would tell me that they only wanted to tell me I love you when they really, really meant it. And I told them, I was like, I could walk out this door and that would be the last time you see me.
Right.
And then would you regret not telling me you loved me?
Right.
And that's, from that point on, that changed that person. They started telling me they loved me every single time that I left. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. I'm happy that we're doing this now. But I seriously was just thinking about that. I was like, that's something that I've done with Sean, something that I've done with my own family. Like, we need to be so, like, present right now because it could be sincerely our last. When you know this, you live every day as if it were your last. Every atom of your desire, love, devotion, everything is poured in this day. And learning what we are taught in life, worthy living is admitting that there is so much knowledge out there we didn't see because of societal blindness is a new beginning of your life. So that is part 1. There is part 2. So let me get to that real quick. All right. So part 2 is called Shortcomings of Wisdom. Now we're going to read verses 7 through 10. We might go through, we'll read 7 through 10. Okie dokie. Present 4 shortcomings of wisdom. Do you see them? Okie dokie. So who can read verses 7 through 10?
Can read. It says, extortion turns wise people into fools, and bribes corrupt the heart. Finishing is better than starting. Patience is better than pride. Control your temper, for anger labels you a fool. Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. You said till 10, right?
Yep. So it says, do you see them? The shortcomings of wisdom. Present 4 shortcomings of wisdom. Do you see them?
4 shortcomings of wisdom.
Ow. Just sit comfortably in this thing. It's hard.
4 shortcomings of wisdom. Is he referring to these like next 4 verses that we just read? Like what's the shortcoming within that verse?
Yeah, what's the shortcomings of wisdom? Like, why is wisdom not good? Like,
Not
too much
good.
wisdom, not good.
Oh, how it can fail you sometimes?
Yeah, how wisdom can fail us sometimes.
Well, I think in the very first one where it says extortion turns. Wait, hold on. Never mind. Give me a second. Okay. So I was right. So I will do the first one where it says extortion turns a wise person into a fool and a bribe corrupts the heart. I did not really, I had to look up the word for extortion. It says the practice of obtaining something, especially money, through force or threats. That's very shortcoming of a wise person because that's obviously not a good thing to do, especially if like, well, yeah, it's just not a good thing.
Yeah. I think that's the more wisdom that we have. What is that one thing? It's like ignorance is bliss.
Oh, right.
In a
Sometimes
certain,
kind of nice not
yeah,
knowing.
yeah, it's kind of nice not knowing. And so, like the verse 7 here, surely oppression drives the wise man into madness.
Oppression. Oppression turns the wise man into madness.
It's like too like so here. It's like shortcomings of wisdom. Do you see them? The power, too much power can be really bad for wise. Patience, temper, and romanticizing. Wisdom will give you power, which could corrupt you. Wisdom will make you impatient because you come to realize you are actually surrounded by an army of idiots who should know better.
I see.
Wisdom will make you angry. So the same above mentioned reasons. So like the same thing, because you're surrounded by idiots, because that will make you angry. You're surrounded, like once you start learning more and more, you're kind of just like the veil is lifting off of your eyes and just kind of realizing like, where the frick have I been living at?
Yeah.
Wisdom will make you romanticize about the days before you were wise.
Yeah. Because there's some things you wish you didn't know.
Oh, there's a lot of things I wish I didn't know. Okie dokie. Then we're going to jump into verses 15 through 18. Okie dokie. Sean, would you read verses 15 through 18?
Wait, hold on. I'm like
Yep.
trying to process this.
Okay.
Because I'm just like, whoa, we're going fast. Shortcomings of wisdom.
I was going to say
Wait, what
We
did you
could
say,
read
Laura,
7
really
through
quick?
10 again, and like now that we have this, really just try and digest it.
I just wanted, what did you say for power? Because when we're wise, we have power, and then we take advantage of that, or what was the power one?
So wisdom will give you power, which could corrupt you.
Corrupt. Okay, corrupt you. Sorry, because I'm taking
No.
notes. That's why I'm like, and then
Don't be sorry at
patience
all.
was because then you feel like you're surrounded by idiots, or
Yep.
that's what it was?
Yep.
Feeling superior. then
Yeah,
maybe?
having that superiority. Wisdom will make you impatient because you realize you are actually surrounded by an army of idiots. And then the same thing with anger. Like that will make you angry because again, you're surrounded by a sea of idiots. And lastly,
Romanticizing was.
romanticize the days before you were wise,
So
before you knew any better.
You dwell a lot on the past,
Mhm.
dwelling.
You dwell on the days that you didn't know about all the things in the world. And you kind of just laughed as fools per se. How like in the last few verses, and I kind of like how we're talking about this now in terms of like now being too wise, and now we're talking about not being fools back then. You're kind of just going back into those verses and going like, well, I don't want to be like a complete and total idiot and a complete and total fool, but at the same time, like I kind of miss just laughing and living and not having a care in the world.
Right. Isn't there like a verse? There's like a verse in the Bible where it's like, don't be too. I think he says like, don't be too perfect. Why would you want to like corrupt yourself like that or whatever? And that makes me think of that, like where you're just so wise and now you see through everything.
And you
then
have
it's
no
kinda like
enjoyment
there's
of
no
life.
Joy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So, Sean, I'm going to have you read verses 15 through 18.
In my vain life I have seen everything. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a
Wait.
wicked man who prolongs his life. in
Sean.
his evil
We
doing.
skipped 11 through
14.
14.
If you want to read them, we can, but
Oh,
it
he
just
just-
says to skip from like 2:15 through 18.
Huh.
Oh, he
Okay.
skipped those.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Carry on. Sorry, I thought that was really weird.
Raise your voice.
Yes. Yes, please.
In my vain life I have seen everything. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life in his evil doing. Be not overly righteous, and do not make yourself too wise.
Oh, that's what we were just talking about.
Exactly.
Why should you destroy yourself? Be not overly wicked, neither be a fool. Why should you die before your time? It is good that you should take hold of this, and from that withhold not your hand, for the one who fears God shall come out from both of them.
I love the last verse that it says that the one who fears God shall come out from both of these groups, from the overly wise and the overly fool. But don't be like too close to being a fool, and don't be perfect either. So it's kind of like find a balance for your own personal life.
Well, then I think because like when you're like that, then you're just kind of, I think you learn how to be a bit more understanding and compassionate towards other people. Like you're not so critical. Right.
Like you
There's-
see like both sides and you understand both sides.
And because you also recognize that you're not perfect, so you're just like, you know what, I better shut my trap because
And that's honestly, I think, a lesson that a lot of Christians need to learn. I have so many people coming up to me and telling me, like, I don't want to be a Christian because they're overly critical and they think that they're holier than thou and all these terrible things. And right here in these verses are telling us, don't be that.
Yeah.
Have grace on yourself and on others.
I know, yeah, and then like on yourself, because sometimes it's like you're not critical of others, but you're very critical of yourself.
Yes.
And when another person hears you being very critical of yourself, they think like if they're that critical of themselves, they're probably very critical of me.
Exactly.
That's very true.
So it's like we have to also learn to like, hey, okay, you know what? I'm also human. I'm not perfect. Like it happens.
Exactly. I think that's a really, really wonderful thing to like add, not only for wisdom, but even for like our appearance, for the things that we do, for our own accomplishments, for our own shortcomings. I have some people who, I love this like new movement of people being empowered with their body shapes or anything, and just kind of finding peace with that. Because then other people find themselves at safety around you. Being like, I can be however shape and understand that I will be okay. And like, yeah, we're trying to strive for health and everything. But ultimately, I'm not going to judge for my appearance or for my freaking scholarly like accomplishments or wisdom. So I think, yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so then it says here, if with number 1 we would rate a total idiot, and with number 100 a perfect specimen of a humankind, where would wisdom be based on these verses? Now that we've learned everything.
Probably in the middle, because you're not into one extreme to the other.
Do you all agree?
Balancing, yeah. You're like trying to find that equilibrium.
I love that, because that is exactly it. Seems like the answer would be around 50. There are many things that don't make sense in life. There are many things we don't understand, or we simply don't know what's going on. So approach life with grace. Give it some slack. Loosen up. Trying too little and trying too hard will screw you up. It doesn't sound right though, right?
Because you always think like, to be wise,
You have to just
push hard.
go hard. And then there's no savoring life. Go on.
I was gonna say, but I think that's the beauty of the people you surround yourself with, because you can be wise without having made those mistakes because of the people around you, because like the counsel of others,
Yeah.
and especially with like, what is it in the Bible, like the lame man was forgiven of his sins or being able to walk because of his friend's faith.
That's so beautiful. I love that. So you kind of just surround yourself with kind of like like-minded people who want to strive for wisdom, but also not be so gun-ho about that whole situation and want to still live life.
Yeah, and how you said like giving yourself more grace, like living with more grace. Because I even find like sometimes I like, I'm not, obviously I know I'm not perfect, but sometimes there's like that effort that you just want to do everything so right, and you just don't want to mess up because you want your life to go so well, but then you're over here making all these dumb mistakes, and you're just like, you get like infuriated or frustrated, but then it's like also learning like, okay, well dude, you're also not perfect, you're a human, and you're gonna make mistakes. And sometimes it's almost even kind of nice like when you have those mistakes, because then like when another friend comes to you and they've made a mistake, you approach it with a lot more grace because you're like, dude, I've been there too, like I get it, and it's okay. Like we can try and not do it again, not trip over the same stone, but let's not crucify ourselves because we made this mistake.
Exactly.
It's kind of also like a testimony.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
your
you share
testimony of life.
testimonies, like you give people like, hey, this is what I did, and people are like, oh, that's exactly what I'm going through, or this is exactly what I'm doing.
So people don't feel alone.
Yeah.
And that brings community together. If you agree that this doesn't sound right, you are exactly making the point from above. You don't know. There are limits to wisdom, and if you don't take it easy, you're screwed. Final thoughts. Live your life now. Have fun. Not like you're going to get out of it alive anyways, is what he said.
Jeez.
Well, we're not taking
We're not taking anything.
You're not gonna get out of it.
Oh my gosh, Milosh. All right, we have about like 25 minutes left. If someone wants to like put something into this, I really, really appreciated this, honestly, in so many different senses. Like, I've been going out with my friends a little bit more, and I just before used to think like I would feel too guilty going to go and have fun. I'm like, I need to make money, I need to do things, I gotta take care of my family, I have to be on top of everything, and not allowing myself to breathe.
Live a little.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And now I've been going out and doing all these amazing experiences, and every single time I'm at a place where I'm like at the top of a mountain, about to go swimming at this gorgeous lake, and I just stand there like, is this real? Is this actually what's happening right now? And I just feel so alive. And I like almost want to well up in tears, but I'm not going to be the weird one who's like just suddenly crying.
Oh, I will.
Oh yeah.
I will.
I should just.
I will just cry. I remember, I remember when I was first also like spending more time like with my girlfriends and like doing more like things that I wanted to do. And I remember my mom was like, oh, you're so lucky that you guys are living like this. Back in my day, we never did those things. Like, it was like such a shameful thing. Like, as a mom, you had to stay home with the kids. You shouldn't be going out, because I had Rafa. Like, I was already a mom. But in my mind, I was just like,
No.
but being a mom is only one part of my identity. It's not my entire identity. And she was making the point. She's like, well, when I was younger, my whole identity was just a mother and a wife. That was it. I wasn't supposed to be going out. That wasn't a thing. Now she's going out more with her friends. And because I remember I was like, Mom, like, I know what my responsibilities are to my kid. I know, and I do all of those responsibilities, but I also have responsibilities to myself, to my mental health. Like, I'm not gonna let my life go and it's like, oh, just because I'm a mom now my life is over. Like, no, my life is beautiful because I have all this time with my son, but then I have time for me and my friends and my siblings, my parents. Like, I'm also me, and I want my son to also be like that, to know that there's a healthy balance between your responsibilities, but also to yourself.
And I love that you're teaching that. You're raising the next generation, allowing him to see that he's free.
But a lot of people still judge. Like, I know there's people that kind of think like I'm probably not a good mom or something like that because I do these things. And to me, I'm just kind of like, that's cool. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm happy. My son's happy. Like, I'm good.
That's the reason why earlier I was saying, like, I would rather someone think that I have bad breath. No, not the. Yeah, I don't want people to think that I have a bad breath, because I can deal with people being critical. But that took time for me to learn and to understand that, you know, they can do whatever the heck they want to do, but I got to take care of me.
Yourself,
yeah.
Because they ain't paying for your rent.
No.
They're not living in your brain.
Not my monkey, not my circus. What you call it? It was like
not my pig, not my farm. Not my pig, not my farm.
Not my pig, not my farm. Also, I've learned, like, through psychology and things, like, it's really important for, like as a husband and wife, for him to have his own friends, for him to have his own time, and for me to have my own friends and to have my own time. We'll come together, and then we'll have new stories to tell each other.
To share it with each other.
There's more to share, instead of just like, I worked, I came home, and that was it. Actually, when I was years ago, I was working at Massage Envy, and I was at the break room, and I told, it was like a Sunday, and they're like, oh, you know, what is your husband doing for the day? Because, like, they know most of our spouses are just home chilling out. And it's like, oh, he's snowboarding. He's like, and you let him go by himself? I'm like, yes. I'm like, are you okay?
He's a grown adult.
He's a grown adult. He's like, and are you worried? I was like, I'll text him at lunchtime just to check that he's alive.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
That's fair enough.
And then and it's like, well, when is he planning to come back home? Like, 7, 8 p.m. probably, and you're okay with that? Yes. And it's like, it was so heartbreaking to me that their whole like life was like that was it, and that they couldn't go out and do other things. One of them came up to me, he's like, so what, how can I do this? I was like, I don't know, Sean's just really nice and he's someone that I can trust. Like, I'm trustworthy, I'm nice. I'm just like, I'm so sorry, but
yeah, it's just something that she has to figure out with her own relationship.
Exactly. So I don't know, but it really just kind of like brought to mind, just like, I'm really, like, I want to strive for that, for your life, for our lives and everything, for it to not just be work, for it to just not be like just learning and working and doing just all these like really heavy duty things, but also not on the other side either, and just being
not
like
to the other extreme either.
Exactly. So And I think it's just been really like applying with all the other things that we've been learning in the last few weeks with Milos to just really live life and to savor it and to just appreciate every moment that we have.
When it seems like what I was getting from this too is like to not, like in that last part where it kind of seems like don't take, where it said, what did it say right here? I'll just read it real quick. It said, where is it? I don't know, but it's basically saying like not living on two extremes, right? It's like you're not doing too little where you're just lazy and then like you're not doing anything with your life versus then being on the other extreme of like everything is just so fun and or no,
Exactly.
or no. One extreme is like
Verse 17.
Is that where it is?
Yeah.
17?
Be not
Don't
over.
get too wicked either. Don't be fooled. Why die before your time?
Oh, 16 and 17. So be not overly righteous and do not make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Be not overly wicked, neither be a fool. Why should you die before your time?
Right. And I think in some of the other days that we talked about where it was like working too little versus working too much.
Yeah.
Like it seems like there's been this constant theme of like not being on either extreme.
And not having, like being able to learn to have balance with our lives. And I think that's ultimately what we all need to learn. I keep trying to tell that to Sean and just be like, and I think it's been helping a little bit more recently with your job right now. I'm telling him just take a day off. Like you live to live, not live to work.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one thing that I had to learn because we have paid time off. Well, obviously everybody has paid time off, but I would always feel like guilty, like if I were calling in sick or anything like that. And then I was talking to a coworker of mine, and they're like, "Well, when was the last time you were sick?" And I was like a while ago. And they're like, "So," he's like, "So you're just waiting to take another day off when you're sick again?" And I was like, "Well, no." And then he's like, "So what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "So you're not relaxing, you're not taking yourself out on a day, you're not doing this." And I'm like,
I love that. I love the idea of taking yourself on a date.
yeah. And I was just like, well, shoot. So some days where I'm just like, I don't feel good today. I'm like, I'm just probably gonna be like doing a terrible job, or I just like, I don't know, feel like I'm throwing up. I don't know, anything. Just something that feels like slightly off. I'm just gonna be like, hey, like I can't make it to work today. And they're like, okay, bye. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, just prioritize ourselves as humans.
This is so much easier than I thought it was gonna be.
I also feel like when you're like more refreshed, you're more efficient.
Yeah.
You do a better job.
You really
versus
do.
when you're like so
And
stressed
that's
out of
been
your mind.
proven.
Yeah.
That's literally been proven over in Europe where they're actually like pushing out the 4-day week instead of the 5-day week. And they're saying that people are a lot more productive. Things are still, working the way they normally do. And if anything, these companies are making even more money.
Yeah.
Because these people are they feel
happier.
appreciated. Yeah, they feel appreciated. So that they're having a
work-life
3-day
balance.
weekend. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's so exciting. All right, so I'm going to finish our prayer and then afterwards, whatever. Enjoy the food that Milos provided.
Oh, yeah. The air.
Imagination.
All right. So, dear Lord Jesus, I want to thank you so much for these wise words. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It just feels like you're gifting us freedom, and we're just so grateful. Help us to have wisdom, and help us to have love and life, and to be able to live and to have a balanced life, Lord. That we're not striving for one or the other too hard, but just fearing you and trusting you, to have grace, Lord, to just be there for others and just spread what we have learned today. I'm so grateful for everything I've learned, even myself, just reading this. And when I just let you know that this has been amazing. I pray that you be with us for the rest of this week, protect us and bless us. In Jesus' name we all pray and thank. Amen.
Amen.
I really like